And Who You Crappin' is brought to you by Townstone Financial. Ah! And as always, I like to keep this simple. Limit this to something someone said, not something someone did. And I also have a feeling, and I have this belief deep in my soul, that Baldy McGrindy will blow your ass up if you're too long.
And I'm Terry Boers.
And we also tell you to try to avoid the overtly partisan political craps. Here is Black Physicist leading us off on the score.
Hello, gentlemen. First, happy 20th anniversary with special kudos to you, Terry, the last original from that little studio on West Belmont Avenue. You both come a long way. Anyway, my crap is out to Mark
Be in
Malone.
the studio.
Last Thursday on the Mully and Hanley show, Mark Malone was discussing the upcoming NFL divisional playoff game between the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers. When asked by Mully and Hanley which team he thought would come away with the victory, Mark Malone said he liked the Giants. When asked why, Mark Malone stated that he liked the Giants' offensive line. Then he added that their quarterback, Peyton Manning, was starting to play better. Screaming at my radio, I was shocked that Mully and Hanley, in their typical wise guy fashion, failed to correct Mark Malone by letting him know that it's younger brother Eli that he meant to refer to. But since they didn't, I will. Hey, Marky Mark, who are you crapping?
Thank you, physicist. This is from James, who said, Floyd Mayweather Jr. last week tweeted, my jail sentence was pushed back as the date was locked in. Step up, punk, in an attempt to goad Manny Pacquiao to fight him. Now, I suppose you could crap him because he hasn't faced Pacquiao because he's ducked him out of fear that Mayweather and his perfect record would be destroyed. Or you could question his right to call anyone a punk after he cold-cocked Victor Ruiz while he was looking at the referee. But no, it's more fundamental. He taunted Pacquiao and called him a punk in order to try to squeeze in their fight before he goes to jail for beating up a woman.
Yeah.
The perpetual candidate for best pound-for-pound fighter in the world has to go away on June 1st because he assaulted Josie Harris, the mother of two of his children. According to reports, he admittedly punched her, pulled her hair, twisted her arm, all in front of their two children, threatened to kill her or make her disappear, was only stopped because his 10-year-old son ran out of the house, hopped a back fence, and alerted security. This was his fourth arrest for domestic incidents with Harris, the eighth time he's been arrested due to charges of violence against women. Floyd Mayweather Jr., hope you lose that undefeated record in prison and maybe, just maybe, get punked while you're a guest of the state. Who you crapping? Good job. Stephen Bolingbrook, you're on the score.
Hello, boys.
Hello.
Oh, buddy, what's happening?
Same old, same old. This crap goes out to David Furnish, husband of Elton John. At the Golden Globes this past weekend, Madonna beat out Elton John for Best Original Song. Furnish took his responsibility as rock and roll's first male trophy wife to defend Elton's honor by slamming Madonna's acceptance speech. He said, Madonna winning Best Original Song truly shows those awards have nothing to do with merit. Her acceptance speech was embarrassing in its narcissism. You know what's narcissistic? Going on Facebook and complaining that your husband lost an award with a song he wrote for Romeo and Juliet. My guess is Elton and Furnish need something other than the sun to go down on them. David Furnish, who you cramping?
Taking over as the full-time game analyst.
John writes this. This crap goes out to the first belle of unhealthy Southern cooking, Paula Deen, who in a recent interview with Al Roker confirmed that she has type 2 diabetes and also fired off the following humdingers, y'all. I'm not going to change how I cook. I've always encouraged moderation, and I've always eaten in moderation. To say the diagnosis, which she's hidden for 3 years while people continue to shovel down her food as justice served, is just a bit of an understatement. Paula has pushed her voluminous followers towards diabetes in word and deed for years, but now she shares their fate. The kicker is Paula and her family are now spokespeople for a drug maker who makes medicine to deal with diabetes. Of course she's not going to change how she cooks. She needs more fat people to get more diabetes to buy her damn drugs. With her hypocrisy knowing no bounds, it's only a matter of time before Dean is in the undertaking business to more fully profit on people from table to grave. She also told the Today Show that this isn't a death sentence. Actually, Paula, people with type 2 diabetes live about 10 years shorter than they otherwise would without the disease, so your time on Earth is now greatly reduced. By definition, kind of a death sentence. The only unfortunate part about this particular one is that the rest of us can't circle a day on our calendars. So for your stupid profiteering, lying, and dissembling, who you crapping?
I didn't know it was being thrown.
Well, now you know, biatch. Gary in Evanston, you're on the score.
Hi, guys. I'm very disappointed that this year's Golden Globes did not have a salute to the dead montage, although Jessica Lange kind of looked dead. Who cares?
Kind of.
That's true, too. Good. That's exactly right.
That's right.
Anyway, Terry touched upon this on Monday, but I still must crap sports reporters host John Saunders for actually saying on his show last Sunday that the Sally Jenkins interview of Joe Paterno, quote, opened a window back to the Joe Paterno we always knew, and that the Sandusky scandal should not, quote, erase the good that Joe has done, and the lives he has touched and changed and even saved, and the millions of dollars he gave to Penn State when he was its revered coach, and his children and grandchildren love him for being human, and that will be his legacy. Well, all that is sickening because Joe ran a dirty program even before all this, and he should be remembered as an enabler of a child rapist. John Saunders, who are you crapping?
He doesn't miss anything, that guy.
It's from Thomas, who says, don't ask me why, but this weekend I watched Behind the Music remastered Styx. In what amounted to an hour-long Who You Crappin', one comment stood out. Jim Cahill, promotion manager for the band, said of audience's unenthusiastic reaction to the Mr. Roboto Kilroy Was Here multimedia schlockfest, quote, we were offering them Shakespeare, and what they wanted was rock and roll. No, Jim, what you were offering them was Drek, and what they wanted was different Drek. Jim Cahill, who you crappin'?
Bad.
South Loop. Jay, you're on the score.
My crap goes out to Matt Bowen on Monday on the Boers and Bernstein show, commented on Vernon Davis's great productivity with the 49ers that has taken place this year in response to new head coach Jim Harbaugh. Well, Matt, I don't want to sound like a Coach Singletary apologist because the team didn't respond to his I'm going to be your father figure coaching tactics, but Davis only had more yards and TDs under Singletary after his James Evans-like punishment and rant. For a second, I thought you were setting up some praise for your former coach and newly fired, retired Mike Martz, but Super Terry Boers so smooth reminded you that Mike Martz loves tight ends. Not. It's obvious you might have been caught off guard or set up by Dan and Terry with the question, oh, snap, I sound like a Matt Bowen apologist. Matt, you bring great football analysis to the score, so leave that why or how a person is feeling stuff to them booyah suckers and stay in your Glenbar West lane. Hoop when you can't relate.
Oh, it was going so well.
He's right on the brink.
It even had a not joke in there.
Sometime today.
Junior.
Greg in Yorkville says, this goes out to Chris Berman of the Booyahs. Sunday NFL Countdown, Berman continually used the term tragedy when discussing the death of Michael Philbin, the son of Packers offensive coordinator Joe Philbin. Now, obviously, the accidental death of anyone in most circumstances is, in fact, tragic. But what Berman failed to mention is that Michael Philbin spent 6 months in jail for the rape of two 16-year-old girls at his father's home 3 years ago. The term tragedy would be appropriate when discussing what happened to these two young women. The term tragedy would also fit perfectly when describing his short jail sentence and the decision by the judge to allow Philbin to avoid registering as a sex offender. Where the term tragedy doesn't fit is when a convicted rapist is found face down in a frozen river after a night of boozing and screwing around with friends. That is not tragic. That is justice. So, Boomer and your band of boobs, next time you put a story together for dramatic effect, be honest with the viewers. Who you crapping?
I did not know that.
I didn't know it either until I read this when it was sent in. He does supply the link to the Journal Sentinel article, so he's sourced his material. Michigan Matt, you are in Who You Crapping on the score.
Gentlemen, here's to another Tiki 20. This crap goes out to you, Mr. Bernstein. Earlier today, when talking about actors and athletes making so much money and people complaining, you made reference to the new Tom Hanks, Julia Roberts movie. Except it stars Sandra Bullock. How dare you not know the difference between your dark-haired, perky actresses who win Academy Awards? Dan Bernstein, talk more Kate Winslet's big boobies and who you crapping.
Thanks, sir. Nick from Colorado says, earlier this week, Paula Deen admitted she had type 2 diabetes. I'll give you a moment to recover from your shock. She defended herself by saying she enjoyed her cooking in moderation and that she only ate like that the handful of days she tapes her show. Really? So you go home and eat tofu and green beans without bacon? Admit it, ham face. It's amazing you can come up with cookbooks full of recipes with lard-infused butter cream puffs and never eat any of it. I don't care if you have diabetes. I don't care if your days with feet are numbered. But don't justify your crap on a plate to other diabetics. I guess the bright side is we'll soon have a recipe for deep-fried insulin. Paula Deen, I hope you get hit in the face again, but this time make it a brick. Who you crapping?
Fat.
Wow. That's a lot of venom.
Well, this is really a classic, Who You Crappin'.
Yeah, I know. I know
Unemployed lawyer, you're on the score.
Terry, when Paula Deen dies, are you going to lay a wreath at Wrigley Field for her? Or was that the other guy who died? I can't remember. Last week, Joe Paterno said of his reaction to hearing what Mike McQuarrie witnessed, quote, "I just did what I thought was best." Later in the same article, Paterno is quoted as saying, "I wish I had done more." Wait, does Joe Paterno wish he'd done more, or did he think it was best to continue enabling and concealing the rape of children? Because if he did what he thought was best, what more could he reasonably have expected to have done? Joe Paterno, I don't want you dead. I want you to fully appreciate that your final legacy, the first thing people will forever associate with you, is the rape of children. I want you dragged to the courts and bankrupted by civil suits. That's what I think is best. Paterno, who you crapping?
We're in the midst of Who Ya Crappin'. Still plenty of time for it. Yelp on in 312-644-6767. Come out and play. Chicago Sports Radio 670, the score. And we are in the midst of Who Ya Crappin' on Boers of Bernstein, Chicago Sports Radio 670, the score. Been strong so far, and as always, looking for the big finish.
And I apologize in advance to the good E-Craps I don't get to. It was a particularly solid crop this week, so some good ones will go
Generally
unread.
is. They're pretty good.
Waukegan next. Renee is on the score.
Hi. This goes out to Joe Paterno. On the Sunday paper, they talked about his interview, and they say in the Sunday paper, he didn't want to get specific, Paterno said. And to be frank with you, I don't know that it would have done any good because I never heard of rape in a man. Really, Joe Paterno? You've never heard of men being raped. What's worse, Sandusky wasn't raping men, he was raping boys. Who are you crapping?
Thank you, Renee. Glenn has one for me. It says, you use the discussion of college quarterback prospect Gunnar Kiel as a platform to criticize parents who choose obscure or non-Anglo-Saxon names for their children, suggesting, what's wrong with naming your child Mark or Steve? Well, Dan, there's nothing wrong with that. And if your comments from the week before are to be believed, there's also nothing wrong with Madison, Wisconsin resident legally changing his name to Bizau Dudu Zappity Bop Bop Bop. Apparently, it's pretentious hyper-parenting to give your child a name which, while unusual, is actually used somewhere in the world, but it's, to use your own word, awesome for someone to have a name consisting of multisyllabic gibberish that sounds like it was scat sung by Mel Torme.
Gotcha.
So, Dan Bernstein, father of Jason Shamalama Ding Dong and Zoe Cham Zinamina Shama Shanae, who you crapping?
Gotcha.
He was a retard.
Yes, he is.
Yes,
he is.
I is a retard. Russell in Western Springs, you're on the score.
Yeah, this one goes out to the esteemed sports personality, Sarah Spain. One time you were on Chicago Tonight with the...
Ooh.
And
what?
Adam in Buffalo Grove says, this goes out to the American Diabetes Association. Earlier this week, Paula Deen shocked the world by announcing that she had type 2 diabetes, which was diagnosed 3 years ago. And during this time, she continued to promote high-fat, high-sugar recipes on the Food Network, recipes that no doubt contributed to her being fat, stupid, and diabetic in the first place. As part of a new sponsorship deal, a portion of the profits from sales of a diabetes drug will be donated to the ADA. Geraldine Spillett, a spokeswoman for the ADA, had this to say, quote, people may benefit from seeing how others successfully manage type 2 diabetes. Paula Deen, through her work with Diabetes in a New Light, is likely to inspire many people living with type 2 diabetes to take a more positive approach to their care. We commend her for speaking out on behalf of people with type 2 diabetes and welcome her to the association's Stop Diabetes movement. When I read that, I was so shocked I dropped my deep-fried cheesecake into my deep-fried butterballs, and now there's grease splattered all over my deep-fried bacon, mac, and cheese. This is hardly ideal. At least my Krispy Kreme bread pudding is still okay to eat. Look, ADA, I get it. You have to be gracious and respectful to people who donate money to you. But you can ease up when the donor is the biggest cause of diabetes since her own pancreas. I just hope the money you receive from her fills that aching spot in your stomach when you next see her stuffing chocolate and butter up a chicken's rear end seconds before it's deep fried.
Hello.
ADA, who you crapping?
Bottom bitch.
Wow. Woof.
Elk Grove and Tony on the score. Tony!
Tony!
Hey, sorry, guys. Hey, Spuddy.
Hey, Spuddy.
Bottom bitch. Gentlemen, this is my first crap.
Good luck with your first crap.
This crap goes out to our favorite Tony Stewart lookalike, Dan Bernstein.
Hello.
Dan, earlier today you brought up the name Jason Terry and mentioned that he is NBA's all-time leading scorer to never make an NBA All-Star game. While a total of 15,750 points, not to mention his 1,400 points scored in the playoffs and the championship ring, is impressive and sounds great, it's wrong. The actual all-time leading NBA scorer to never make an All-Star appearance is U of I's very own, Sky Point for Herbie, Eddie Johnson with 19,202 points from 1981 to 1999. So, Dan, I hate you.
Current player.
He said current player.
Current player.
He said current.
What does Terry always say?
Listening is a skill.
Yep, listening is a skill. That's what you did say. Current player. I know you did because we talked about it yesterday.
This from Schmutzy. He says Joe Paterno claimed he really wouldn't have understood what Mike McQuarrie was talking about when he reported seeing Jerry Sandusky assaulting a boy.
To be frank with you, I don't know what it done it good. I never heard of raping a man.
Assuming you never heard of a man raping a boy, it's not believable that Paterno was clueless about the possibility. He was 75. He never heard of a child molester. He was asked why he waited a day before reporting. He said, I sat around. It was a Saturday. Waited until Sunday. I wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing. The informed decision Paterno made after a day of sitting around and thinking, did he call law enforcement? No. He called Tim Curley, and then he washed his hands of the matter. He also said that prior to McQuarrie's visit, he had no inkling that Sandusky might be a sexual deviant. Well, that's odd, because he was investigated by Penn State police for touching a young boy in '98, and then Paterno told Sandusky he'd never be a head coach again. Coincidence? Yeah, sure thing. But the topper came when Sally Jenkins asked him if he felt like he was being unfairly assigned too much blame.
Whether it's fair, I don't know, but they do it. You'd think I ran the show here.
Well, the people who were supposed to be running the show there, President Graham Spanier, AD Tim Curley, and Vice President Gary Schultz were all immediately fired. Curley and Schultz have been arrested and charged with perjury. And Paterno wonders if he's been treated fairly because he was finally kicked off the team at age 84. Joe, the reason you remained the head coach well into your 80s is the same reason the other guys turned blind eyes to a child rapist. It's obvious by now to all but your cult of weirdo fans and former players that you were, in every conceivable way, running the show there. Joe Paterno, who you crapping?
Also, the famously Catholic, too, I think, comes into play in some of those thoughts.
I can't hear nothing.
Northside Pimp, you're on the score.
What's happening, Cat Daddies?
Pimp!
Pleasure to meet you. Listen, I got some crap for the Clippers play-by-play announcers. Last Saturday in the Battle of L.A., they got caught up in a moment as Chris Paul was torturing 85-year-old Derek Fisher. And they said, wow, we're looking at the best point guard in the league. What's funny about that is a week earlier, Derrick Rose, the best point guard in the league, made Chris Paul look like Derek Fisher. So I don't know what the hell you were talking about, you silly bastards. Who you crapping?
I don't know why I just get so much joy from him.
He really is.
He's a
joyful figure.
Because half the time I don't really understand it.
No, but it's just a joy. That's all you need to know.
John in Streamwood, you're on Who You Crapping on the score.
Hey, guys, I just got to point out, why does your Joe Paterno sound like a cross between Hans Moleman and the Fonz? I love it.
I don't know what you're talking about. I can't hear you.
This crap goes over to the Ayatollah of all idiots, Phil Simms, who, during the broadcast of the dong whipping of the Denver Broncos, noted that the trick kick was a great way to keep Tom Brady safe late in the game. Let's point this out. The Broncos were down, 28 points at the end of the game, and Brady was playing into the fourth quarter? But no, the real way to keep Tom Brady safe isn't to pull him. It's to quick kick and a classless move on third down. Phil Simms, think before you open the sphincter that's located on your mouth spewing verbal diarrhea. Who you crapping?
Hans Moleman Productions presents Man Getting Hit by Football.
Well, that's it for that.
We decided that it's too good, and we're gonna finish it on the other side of the update.
Because I was gonna say,
we're adding that we're gonna do an extended dance mix because we got a couple.
You
people
haven't checked my manometer.
No, we're not going. We're gonna do it.
Okay,
a little bit longer here because it's just too damn
Longer's
good.
better.
Yep.
Okay. This hour brought to you by Subway Restaurants. Eat fresh at Subway.
We're doing a little extra appendix here to Who You Crappin' just because we want to. And by the way, I was right about Tom Hanks and Julia Roberts being in Larry Crown. I thought
Larry Crown, not the big noise,
I thought I was right about that.
No showers or whatever that thing is. Yeah, I knew which one you were talking.
Elmhurst, Sean, you're on the score.
This crap goes out to George Offman, whose updates can't hold a candle to Connors, and whose pappy's name I do not recall. But anyway, in a Monday sister station sports update, George informed the masses that John Elway had decided after Tim Tebow's play, he would allow him to start next week. George, the only balls Tim could be playing with next week, his religion forbids. Who you crapping?
Jason in Northbrook says, recently outed as a sufferer of type 2 diabetes, Paula Deen appeared on the Today Show to announce her corresponding drug endorsement. The queen of the stroke belt responded to criticism about the healthiness of her cuisine by telling the Today Show that portion control is key. In fact, one portion of her Lady and Son's chicken pot pie, one portion, contains 2,344 calories and 221.5 grams of fat. Paula Deen, you deep-fried fraud. Who you crappin'? I wanted to read this one as well before we check your manometer.
Wow.
This is from Pete, who says, George Diaz of the Orlando Sentinel, upon New England's stomping of Tebow and the Broncos, he wrote, Tebow will be missed by millions of people who have no clue about what a cover 2 zone means. Their playbook has a deeper context, etched in the values that Tebow has embraced as a devout Christian. Each of Tebow's NFL games is a referendum on faith, with the haters and the atheists lining up on one side, squaring off against all who believe. Seriously, George, all who believe are on one side of the Tebow debate. One's faith or lack thereof has no necessary connection to that person's attitude toward Tebow. I generally don't question individuals on their faith unless they interject it in an over-the-top fashion into the public square, and Tebow has done so, nauseatingly. I'm not a fan of his Florida cracker homeschooled fan of fundamentalism, which I consider to be a wellspring of hate and intolerance. My feelings have no bias whatsoever, no basis whatsoever in my own religious beliefs. But George ended by saying, do you have faith? Are you a good person? Is God on your side? These are 3 totally unrelated questions. My responses to these: 1, none of your business. 2, I think so. And 3, who knows? Certainly not you, George. Spare me the deification of this megalomaniacal phony. The best argument against believing in an afterlife is the pain of spending eternity with many of those who do, such as the insufferable Tebow apologist. George Diaz, give it a rest, and who you crappin'? Now, Terry, please check your manometer.
Well, it's extra time? Are you kidding me? It's already ready. It might have already bursted.
I'm surprised it had burst.
Yeah, it's already bursted, didn't it?
The Isle of Man.
That's where I got it.
Yes, in Beverly, sad clown will close out a fine edition of Who You Crappin' on the Score.
This crap goes out to Italian seaman Francesco Sciatano, captain of the cruise liner Costa Concordia, which recently ran aground off the Italian coast. After deflecting accusations that he abandoned ship with women and children still on board, the captain recently claimed to the Italian newspaper La Repubblica, quote, unexpectedly, seeing the ship was listing at 60 or 70 degrees, I stumbled and ended up in one of those lifeboats. That's why I found myself there. That's why you found yourself there in that lifeboat? It couldn't be you jumped ship in a selfish attempt to save your own skin? Of all the professions where I could see a fall happening, I could understand a construction worker falling into a manhole, or Terry falling for a professional athlete. But is captain falling into a lifeboat while the ship is sinking? All Sciatano's explanations seem unbelievable. First, he claimed the rocks he crashed into is not recorded on any sea charts. He told investigators that he'd been the last to leave the ship, a credo by which all captains are supposed to abide. Now he says he accidentally fell into a lifeboat. Sciatano's many words and actions after the fact, fortunately, none of them has dispelled the notion that his persistence since World War II that Italians are about as courageous as your average 10-year-old girl. Sir, it's unfortunate you didn't fall into some jagged rocks. So, Captain, I've got 2 questions for you. Beepity-boppity-boopity, and who you crapping?
You may wonder with the things you say.
I was ready for that guy. Hey, buddy.
You must have thought that we were napping. Hey, buddy. Who you
you crap.
I mean, I think Paula Deen deserves what she gets, but that guy, it took all the way to the end to get to that guy?
No, that's just perfect.
Come on.
Because I was going to read one, but then I thought it'd be better to just let Sad Clown have at him.
All right, yeah, that's fine then.
I
But
fell
come on
into the
now.
lifeboat. I just fell. The rocks are not there.
Scusi.
The rocks are not on the map.
Fell into the lifeboat.
Whoa. There I go. I'm in the lifeboat, and I'm fine.
Not so fine.
And then the Coast Guard is telling him, get back on the boat. And he said, it's dark in there. And it's wet. Too dark, too wet. I'll be out here.
Oh.
Get a Mai Tai in his hand.
God. That's a classic.
Skip,
that is
Skip
a
Carey,
classic.
whose pappy was the legendary Harry and whose son is Skip, died in his sleep last night. Make that his son Chip.
We're glad that somebody got George because we are not allowed to use it. I know it's continuing to happen. I hear from people all the time saying you got to hear this, George. You got to check this one out, and
not
we
allowed.
can't.
We can't.
Yeah, Ron Gleason has put his foot down.
Among yesterday's attendees at the wake, all the children of Johnny Red Kerr, who will be buried on Thursday. Skip Carey, whose pappy was the legendary Harry and whose son is Skip, died in his sleep last night. Make that his son Chip.
Skip Perry.
Ryan Sandberg, now the Cubs' Double-A manager, and the great Sammy Baugh died at the age of 94.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's what you call a material.
We're Boers and Bernstein. 312-644-6767. We want to squeeze in a late call and something else. This is a fun one today. WSCR, The Score.